Hi, welcome to District Grants 101. My name is Elise Buckite. I'm the district planner for the Mid-Missouri Solid Waste Management District. And welcome to the first of our 3 tutorials. So these are designed to help our prospective applicants understand what our grant program is, whether or not they or their project is a good fit for the grant program. And then as we get into the next 2 tutorials, we'll get more into the details about what the application itself looks like and how to write a good executive summary for this program. But let's start here with District Grants 101, and we're going to be just doing an overview of who the district is, what the grant program is, and whether or not it's a fit for you. All right, so the Mid-Missouri Solid Waste Management District is Region H. We are one of 20 solid waste management districts around the state of Missouri. Funding for our district comes from the tonnage fees paid at landfills and transfer stations throughout the state. Our region includes 8 counties: Audrain, Boone, Callaway, Cole, Cooper, Howard, Montauk, and Osage. We have a mission to reduce waste in Mid-Missouri. We do this through grants, sponsorships, events, and education. And each year, we make this a priority by setting aside at least 50% of our budget to go towards this grant program. The purpose of the grant program is to provide assistance to develop new or improved programs which will reduce the creation of solid waste, create new markets or improve existing markets for recovered materials, or improve the handling of items banned by Missouri law from landfills. That includes yard waste, whole tires, and lead acid batteries. We have 2 different grants that we offer. We introduce them at the same time, and then we run them kind of concurrently, but on slightly different timetables. So we have small grants. This year, those are going to be offered with up to a $20,000 request, and a 20% match is required. You may apply for more than one of these each year. Our large grants can go up to $100,000 for requests and still has that 20% match required. We do have a couple additional questions and additional materials required for for requests that are over $50,000. Project types can be pretty varied. So we have waste reduction and recycling grants. Sometimes those are a little bit interchangeable, but primarily you're looking with those at reducing solid waste that's generated and then handling waste that is recoverable and recyclable. Composting projects can be anything from full industrial scale composting all the way down to, composting at a community garden. Market development grants focus on that final one of those priorities about improving the markets for this recycled materials. And education projects can be K-12, they can be higher ed, they can be senior citizen education, or just broad-based community education. It's important to note that education projects are limited to a $40,000 request. All the other types may request up to the full $100,000. The total amount that you can be awarded within a single year is capped at that $100,000. So if you're planning to apply for a small grant and a large grant, keep that in mind. Some fine print that's important to know just as you begin to think about this. There's plenty more fine print as you get further into the process. So I think of these as our 3 R's of our program: reimbursement, retainage, and reporting. This grant is a reimbursement-based grant. It's not a block grant. It's not that you get the lump sum of money at the beginning. We pay you after you invoice us with proof of your payments to vendors and service providers. There is also a retainage. So we keep 15% of each invoice held back until you satisfy all the requirements and have submitted your final report. So reporting is one of those requirements. We require quarterly reports to check in and see how you're doing and make sure that the project is proceeding as planned. There's a security interest required by state law for any equipment or constructed buildings and things that are over $5,000 in value. That goes down every year after you finish your project. There are, as I mentioned, a lot more fine print, a lot more details, and you can find those in our financial assistance agreement or general terms and conditions. These are just some basic ones that I find people might be less familiar with in other grant programs they've been a part of. I'm not going to go over all of these eligible costs. They are listed in our guidance document, but it's important to understand this isn't just equipment. This isn't just for materials. You can have labor costs, you can have construction costs, engineering costs, research is included, lab work is included. So it's pretty broad as long as those costs are directly tied to your project and the goals of the project. Ineligible cost is a little bit longer, but again, I'm only going to highlight a couple things here that are quite different from some other programs that you may have had experience with in the past. So operating expenses, which are not directly related to the project activities, those are not eligible costs for our project. The biggest thing is that costs incurred prior to the start date, which is when the financial assistance agreement is fully executed by us and you, you cannot have any of those costs reimbursed. So only costs that happen after the project officially starts with the contract may be reimbursed. Solid waste disposal costs, if you are going to be operating a program where you're doing some recycling and some trash, and you're using the same equipment for both of those things, that equipment would not be eligible for funding because it is going towards ongoing solid waste disposal. So we are only able to fund that equipment and labor costs that are directly tied to reduction of waste, not to bringing waste to landfills. And then that last bolded one, indirect costs for overhead or fiscal and administrative costs are ineligible. So this would be your insurance and overhead costs for employees that maybe you would like to get funding for. Those are not allowed at Region H, and they may be allowed at some of the other solid waste management districts. So that's just a district level ineligible cost. All right, so just some high level review of what the process looks like. So there is a staff level review of your preliminary and final applications. So myself and my colleague will be able to provide feedback and catch some of the issues or maybe ineligible expenses that are included and help you make sure you're in compliance. After that, all of our eligible applications that we receive will go to our advisory committee, and they will score each application using the scoring criteria. They give a recommendation to the executive board, who has the final call on how the money will be allocated. And then once that is done, we send some information to the state, and the Department of Natural Resources does a review, and then we're able to sign the financial assistance agreements. All of that can take some time, and I know it can be a burden for a lot of organizations that wait between when you apply and when you can actually get going on the project. So here's an outline of what we hope for the timeline. In the past couple years, we've had a lot of success in getting these projects started close to what we expect. So for our small grants, the optional preliminary application is due in October. Final application is due this November. Our advisory scoring committee and our advisory committee does their scoring, and the executive board does their approval in December of this year. And then we would hope to be able to start those projects by mid-January. For our large grants, we kind of have these on a little bit of a shift in times here. So large grants would start with the preliminary application in January, final application in February. Our advisory committee and executive board would do their things in March, and then the hopeful start time would be April. So it's always important to make sure that that is in alignment with what you need for your organization. So some things to consider. Not every project is a good fit for every grant program, and just because that is true doesn't mean that you're not doing good work and that your project isn't valuable. We just want to make sure that you understand going into the application process what makes your project align with our goals. So some important things to consider are that there's a demonstrated need for what you're wanting to do and that it aligns with the goals that I talked about earlier. We also want to make sure that there are achievable goals by your organization. There's a lot of need in our area for waste reduction and for end markets. Unfortunately, there's not always capacity to pull off what is necessary. So we want to make sure that your project has an achievable plan. Another important thing is that the outcomes of your project are measurable. So that could be with actual hard numbers, how much waste you're diverting, how many people you're reaching, but also some more quantitative or qualitative measures as well. And then there will be an impact beyond the project. It's very important to my board that projects don't just work when they're being funded, that they have a pathway to sustainability, and that they will be able to continue helping the community long after the project period ends. Now, we know from our experience that applicants have higher scores when they utilize the guidance materials and they meet with staff. So let's talk about what the options are for you as you move through this application. So you're right now in District Grants 101. We will have District Grants 102 and 103 tutorials that go more into depth on different parts of the process and of the application. Applications guidance document and our scoring criteria, as well as our applications, are all really important. And I really encourage everyone to sit down and read through all of those materials before they get started. There are one-on-one meetings available with myself, the district planner. You can sign up for those on our website. And then past awarded grant applications are available upon request. I like to meet with people first to make sure I understand what their goals are, what their project type is, so that I could potentially find a past grantee who had a really good application that might be helpful in your specific circumstance. And as I mentioned, all of that is available at our website at recyclemidmo.com. Now, if you're ready, you can continue on to District Grants 102, where we are going to review the application and all of its components. Thanks for joining.